All right, beautiful people, you're very much welcome to yet another edition of your favorite broadcast. This is our regular Sunday conversation, and like you all know it, our Sunday journey. My name is Wickham, and I'm your anchor man, toujours, always, and glad to be with you all again one more time. Please, those of you coming in, do your best to share to as many people as possible. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Yeah, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. So please do your best to share to as many people as possible. Today we are going to be having a very pertinent and a very complex topic. A very pertinent and a very complex topic, and that's what we're going to have. And the conversation, definitely, like you already know, it is going to be a very smooth, fair, and free one. And I'm definitely not alone. Like always, I'm not alone, and I'm not going to be alone. We're going to have some very beautiful panelists. Today we have two coaches. That's what makes today's edition very special. And we have some already at the backstage. So please, as you come in, do your best to let us know where you're watching us from, so we can greet you in a very special way. You know, it's our tradition to salute our very special people. All of you are connecting right now. Please do your best to just drop a comment on the comment section and let us know where you're watching us from, so we can give you this special warm Sunday greeting. Like you all know it, it's a very wonderful day and it's going to be a smooth conversation. Please, as you come, you share the live. Once you come in, you share the live. Once you come in, you share the live. Once you come in, you share the live. So we have a good number of you watching and as many people as possible watching. It's going to be a very complex time because the conversation. I know there are already a whole lot of people who have had their own comments and thoughts in their mind. But this is the time where we are going to share this. We're going to share, and we're going to share on this particular topic because it is very vital. It is very essential. It's very essential, and good to have you all. Hey, Odette Gabby, good evening to you. Hope you're doing okay. Never Grace, Never Grace, my very own Never Grace. Hope you're doing okay, and hope Portugal is okay. We have Portugal representing. Please do your best to share to as many people as possible, so we have this beautiful conversation. Oh, Never Grace is be patiently waiting. Yeah, I know, right? I know, right? This is the time for us to have this conversation. You know, from the flyer itself, it says it all. A lot of women are going through a whole lot of many things, many funny situations because of this topic which we are going to talk about today. It's that kind of topic. Ah, when I look at the topic and I look at the video circulating, my God, it's a funny world we live in. So we really sometimes it's not just about just apportioning blames and complaining, but sometimes it's also very necessary to have conversations like this. Oh, Jerry the speaker, empresario excepcional, MC without borders. This is Jerry the speaker. You're very much welcome, Jerry, and glad to have you. Happy New Year, my brother. Hope you're doing okay. Yes, a day show to the end. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Please, those of you coming in, do your best to share to as many people as possible. Share to as many people as possible. Share to as many people as possible. Let's have this conversation. Like each time we actually unravel with that kind of speed, and the conversation is very smooth and funky at the same time. So do your best to share to as many people as possible. Share on Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp to as many people as possible. Was here since April. Oh, thank you so much. It was just network issues, and I was trying to set up a whole lot of things backstage. But thank you for being that punctual. Never Gracie. All right, we have Adriana Suarez. Oh, Adriana Suarez, hope you're doing okay. Happy New Year. Hope you're doing. I mean, I miss you all so much. Seeing you all again makes me feel so good. Hi, Vanessa Chair. Good evening to you. Hope you're doing okay as well. Adriana, hope you're doing okay. Hope you're doing okay. You see, We have Jerry no speaker. Great, glad to know you're doing okay. Please, as you come in, do your best to share. Share to as many people as possible. Share to as many people as possible so we have a good number of you following the broadcast. This is a very, very timely and strategic one. Councillor Usna Benita, Councillor Benita, uh, 4 crates, 20 bitter cola, 4 crate of kaji to be precise, 20 bitter cola, of 20 buckets of bitter cola, 2 cows. Why a misplaced like this? They tell you the Chiwe person are like this. Glad to have you on board, sis, and hope you're doing okay. And of course, all of you coming in. Oh, she said our network isn't the best. Sorry, that's some of the realities being in this place where we are. This 237 low continent, that's where a lot of things happen, but beautiful enough. Network with us is never usually the best. I'm not sorry about that though. So please do your best. Connect, 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 connect. Please share to as many people as possible so we can have this live. Please share to as many people as possible so we can have this conversation. Share. Share to as many people as possible, and we are going to have this conversation. As you come in, you share. As you come in, you share. As you come in, you share. We're talking about, so today, like you all already know from the flyer, we'll be handling the topic domestic violence. Domestic violence is a very technical topic that must be handled with much delicacy. If not, we are going to miss the point totally. If we don't handle that delicacy, that delicate nature, we're going to miss the point totally and we're going to go off topic. And this is one topic that is very, very, very vital and it keeps reoccurring in our today's society. Now, like you all already know it, my name is Wicom, and today we'll be handling a very beautiful conversation. A very beautiful conversation with two active persons, two coaches, and we have your favorite chef David that will be with us as well. I'm sure his network is very interesting as well. And why before they come in, I think it's time for us to actually jump deep into this topic. This topic is one of those topics that gets people's minds burning. Like when I posted the video, a lot of people were disturbed. And I don't post on a platform, I don't post such. You see, now we have Councillor Usna Benita. It says one of the worst things that can happen to a lady. Lord have mercy. Yeah, for sure. One thing we don't understand is this: the domestic violence is also practiced on men. It's funny, right? To know that men suffer from domestic violence. Yeah, but that's the truth. Men actually do suffer from domestic violence like that. Men suffer from domestic violence, and we have to actually be very, very keen to some of these details. So it's not a woman thing, but equally men to suffer. We have Happy New Year, the Mrs. Sunjo. Glad to have you, Esther Sunjo. Greetings to you, and hope Bush is doing okay. We have some beautiful Bush audience right here. And those of you who feel like you have something to say about this, because I'm going to engage a conversation in a bit. After reading these first comments, we're just going to dive deep into the conversations and we're going to look at some deep analysis. Please, those of you who feel like you can join, you can join. But if not, I'm going to be reading the comments because there are some key points that I was able to highlight from different angles so that we could be able to have this conversation without being gender biased. Now, we have Adele Lee Bright. Adele, hope you're doing okay. I hope everything's okay with you. Happy Sunday, Nisi Chamukong. Hope you're doing okay. Now, like you all already know it, and like it was previously said, we are going to be having this conversation. And in the course of the program, we're going to be adding our panelists because summer birthday show will be coming progressively as the program is unfolding. But while they're coming, we're going to have the conversation. And there are some key points which I really took out time to note. I took out time to note some key points that are really, really very, very vital when it comes to this topic, domestic violence. You see, domestic violence. Because what it's a very, very pertinent topic. Oh, I see John Pair 4. Hi, John Pair 4. Hope you're doing great. Hope you're doing okay. This is one of our very beautiful people that has been part of the panelists and has been blessing us. Glad to have you, brother. I think I'll send you backstage link if at all you want to join and if your chance. Now, please keep sharing, so we have as many people as possible watching, as many people as possible watching. Now we have neighbor Grace who says domestic violence going more emotional than physical. All right, now time for us to let the cat out of the bag. I'll start the show and we'll be conversing with all of you. We'll be having this conversation with all of you who are at the comment section. You see, we'll have this smooth conversation. And the first thing is which we are going to do is we're going to define domestic violence because we are to look at this from two angles. This is not a one man thing. It's not a one man thing. We're going to look at it from two angles. We have kindness lab. Hi kindness, good evening. Hope you're doing okay. We're going to look at it from two angles. Now, what's domestic violence? That's from that start point which we are going to establish what we'll be talking about. What is domestic violence? Can somebody just help us with the definition in the comment section? While we are going to read from here equally, so we have varied definitions. This one says domestic violence refers to a pattern of abusive behavior used by one person to control or dominate another in an intimate relationship such as marriage or cohabitation. It can involve physical, emotional, psychological, sexual, or financial abuse. Let me highlight this point. It says um, it can involve physical. We have physical. We have emotional. We have psychological. We have sexual. We have financial abuse. Now, this is a Google definition, and if we have to understand or go by this, we will have. It says domestic violence can affect people of all ages, genders, and background, and it often results in harm or fear for the victim. It's a serious crime and violation of human rights. All right. Now, if we look at this definition, we are going to understand that this is just about two people. Grace said that the financial abuse hurt me pass. Yeah. So if we look at the kidney, we're going to understand that domestic violence is something about two people. Two people. And one is trying to use a harsh or forceful method to intimidate the other, either by physical, emotional, or whatever now we are going to use. You see? And that's the issue when we are dealing with a situation like this because it is very, very critical. It's very critical. And it's something that has been repeating. I remember from a very tender age, I always hear people talking about domestic violence. Okay, this one says keep it up, sir. Lonely Elena, you're very much welcome, Elena. I'm glad to have you. Now, like I was saying, growing up, there are lots of people that were talking about domestic violence, and it's a very old syndrome. But in our context, most of the time when we're talking about domestic violence, we are talking about is usually a man laying hands on a woman. In most cases, in most cases. Now, if we look at domestic violence from the angle of the physical to the emotional to the psychological to the sexual and financial angles, we will come to understand that most homes in Africa and out of Africa are actually having this crisis, and a lot of people are suffering from this crisis. Some suffer and finally transit to the next world in silence, and some suffer and finally overgrow or like outgrow it and it becomes some sort of life for them. Today, I want us to look at this from two angles. In the early phase of this week, some few days back, we had a video circulated on social media, And this video triggered a lot of reaction with bloggers posting, different individuals posting, content creators creating content, and all whatnot. And the whole issue behind this video was about a certain guy that was beating up his woman. I don't know if any of you have watched the video already. It's about a certain guy, one Henry of a guy, and you see the video where he was beating up the woman. And in the video, you will notice that this guy is beating up the woman and saying so many things, and the woman is lying there helpless. And I think I saw her crying with a swollen face or something of that sort. I'm not very sure if I can remember if I saw blood or not. Yeah, but I saw her in that devastating state. That's a clear instance of domestic violence. But at one point, we need to be very, 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 very critical when handling issues like this. The first part is now this guy, they had their differences in their house. I don't want to say the write-up that is circulating or the raison d'etre or the motive that is circulating as the reason for this violence is 100% correct. Rather, I want us to be very critical in analyzing because to be very frank, on even in a law court, that is, if I'm caught red-handed committing a crime, if I'm caught stealing, for example, let me see, taking somebody's thing that is not mine, even before, I mean, red-handed with the exhibit in my hand, even before I am judged, there's a minimum that is done. The judge will have to listen to my side of the story before placing a judgment. You see, listen to my part of the story before placing a judgment. But we live in a judgmental society where a lot of the times we like to take judgment into our hands. We like to decide to take the rash decision of doing certain things by ourselves. That's why sometimes some people go physical. Some people get very brutal. Some people get very, very angry and they lose guard. This is one thing which I was trying to say. Like, if you look keenly in that video, you will notice that this guy of a person, the guy, the Henry guy, the one hitting the wife, this guy is hitting a harmless woman. This woman is very harmless. And the story that is circulating on blogs, though I have not verified how true that is, because we can't establish that that's actually the fact without hearing the confirmation from the guy or one or two other witnesses. But the story circulating is that this guy hardly gives money for the wife to cook. These people have been married since 2021, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 2021 or so, and they have two children, if I am not mistaken. I stand to be corrected. And this guy is known for not always giving money for food. Not always means sometimes he might give, sometimes he might not give. And this guy in question, he he's a businessman. So during this Christmas that passed, this past Christmas, he went and gave money, 10,000 francs, for his wife to cook. Allegedly, of course, allegedly. And the money was to cook food for both Christmas and New Year. So the wife was to cook from Christmas to New Year. You know, it's usually a week. He's supposed to cook food. She's supposed to cook for 10,000 francs. That's going to take their home. That's going to feed him, feed his wife. And I heard the woman talking of something like, yes, allegedly, of course, allegedly, in the video, which means he's going to feed the husband, going to feed the wife, going to feed their guests, and their children. 10,000 francs. Okay. Now, the woman allegedly also complained that the money is not enough. Okay. Some of the neighbors came in to say there was a time he did not give money. I'm not certain if that's this Christmas. And they are the ones that contributed some money. One gave 5,000, one gave 15,000, allegedly. And they summed it up to what was going to be food for that household. And later on, this Christmas that passed, before the violence scene, the guy came to check his money where he kept it, And he came to the notice that the 30,000 that he kept in his house, I don't know if it's in his pocket or in his wallet or wherever, he kept money and the amount was 30,000 francs. And he noticed that he could not see that 30,000 francs there because his wife took it. Allegedly, of course. His wife allegedly took the money. And the argument that is circulating now is that the wife took the money to cook food for him and his guests because the money he gave was not enough. And it is allegedly said that the man equally is not faithful when providing for food in the house, which means sometimes the neighbors will have to come out, like some of them, like it's circulating in the internet, like some of them will have to come, welcome, welcome, Miles, glad to have you, brother. Now some people, they like it's circulating, some people have to come and help the wife, you see, to contribute some money so that they can have reasonable food at home. Now let's look at something critically. That's what led to the argument, and there was a physical confrontation. I mean, very physical confrontation that led to the woman passing out. She collapsed, so passing out, no be na kwara. She passed out. You see, she collapsed, and they had to take the woman out of that house to somewhere else. Now, everything I'm saying about this story is alleged, is allegedly, is alleged. So please, may no man no go quote me for some side. Everything I'm saying is alleged. Now, the lady was claiming in the video, you hear him, the man, when he's hitting the woman, he says, "What kind of woman steals? What kind of woman steals?" First, he's saying the woman steals. All right. With some research, I came to understand that according to Cameroon law, let me just read something so that all of us are going to understand, because we usually miss out on a lot of things. Sometimes I try, that's why each time when analyzing a situation like this, I do my best for us all to be very logical. We have to be very logical because we are living in a world where if you're not keen to details, if you're not very smart enough, you might fall in the trap of judging people and judging them wrongly. Please, I like us to be very logical. That is why sometimes when some situations happen, it is just wise for everybody to take a step back and reason critically the subject matter on ground before start apportioning blames. Yes, you might meet a situation that might require your immediate intervention, which is not bad at all for you to intervene immediately. But when it comes to judging and apportioning blames, you should be very keen to details, such that you should actually have full information, as much information as you can, before channeling blames or accusing people or pointing fingers on people. You see, I want to take a section of Cameroon law because this is a man accusing a wife of theft. Now, you see, let me just research it. Please do your best to share. Those of you coming in, do your best to share. We have Mavis Goom that's, oh, happy Sunday, Mavis. Hope you're doing okay. All right, we have Mother of Boys. Mother of Boys, glad to have you, our very own mama. Sita. He says, if you put your hands on your wife, there is a big probability that you will do it again. Yeah, that's the gospel truth. Now let's go progressively. I want us to unravel this thing. I want us to really go progressively and do a critical analysis. Now they say under Cameroon law, a wife can be held legally accountable for stealing from her husband. Theft, regardless of the relationship between the perpetrator and the victim, is a criminal offense in Cameroon. The Penal Code of Cameroon defines theft as the unlawful taking of someone else's property with the intent to permanently deprive them of it. If a wife takes her husband's property without his consent and with the intent to steal, she could face legal consequences, including criminal charges, a trial, and potential punishment such as fines or imprisonment, depending on the severity of the offense. And she can go as far as 6 months to 5 years. However, in practice, how the law is applied might vary depending on the circumstances and evidence presented in each case. First thing which we need to understand is, when I was talking about this with someone yesterday with a legal mind equally, she told me, according to Cameroon law, between husband and wife, theft, there is no theft between husband and wife. But to a greater extent, depending on the judge, they are going to analyze the situation at hand. So the first thing which we notice here is, if we must talk about a situation or a crisis that has to do with domestic violence, we have to look at the cause. The cause, what caused this thing? What caused this thing? What caused this guy? The guy looks gentle, and from all indication, he appears to be a peace advocate. What caused this guy to actually get to the extent that he actually lost it to the point that he laid his hand on his woman? We will all agree here, and I'm establishing this fact, that laying your hand on a woman is a very bad thing, and it is what we shall not promote, and it should not be promoted. No matter what, laying hands on a woman is a very, very bad thing. This is one point that I want to establish here before I give my analysis, so that we should not go and misquote or misjudge this thing, but we should actually critically look at it from different angles. Now, this guy is saying that the woman stole his money. You hear, what kind of woman steals? 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 You see? And in that he says, every vice you have every vice, flaws, different kinds of issues. You're very much welcome, Malcolm Angel. I'm glad to have you. Now, you look at it critically. What caused the confrontation? The money that he went to check and he did not see. That's the immediate cause of the confrontation. Because when you have a confrontation, sometimes it might be caused by immediate, especially with couples or people in a relationship. Sometimes you might have an immediate cause to a confrontation, and sometimes it might be as a result of accumulated negative things that have been happening in that relationship. You see? And it gets to a point where one thing would trigger a reaction that might be confrontational. This is what we look at. Now, this guy is talking about other vices. He's talking about what kind of woman steals. Stealing. And the trap in this situation is that the man, the woman uses the money to cook food for the man to eat. And I'm sure the man came and ate the food and was very happy with his money that the wife took. Let me take this comment. Say, boss, lay hands on a woman is totally wrong. But do you know some women actually push hobby to extreme? In that case, what should a man do? Thank you, because I'm coming to this progressively. Now, this woman when I took the husband's money, what if this man is actually, I understand that he's allegedly a real estate person. What if this man, that money, 30,000 francs, is what he had to use for something the next day with the situation he had or whatever? First thing, I want to ask you people watching that are condemning that man immediately. Is taking your husband's money without his consent a good thing? Regardless of the intention which you want to do with the money. Is taking a man's money that is without his consent, is it a good thing? First of all, let's establish that question. Let's establish that. Is taking a man's money without his consent a good thing? If it's not good, then we should critically go there. Those are one of the causes of that violence. Number two, the next thing is you see people with random videos. The one thing I don't really like and enjoy on social media is because when something like this happens, we don't have people that will even apply a certain degree of intelligence on how to first thing to solve the problem. Most of the time, we're actually coming to aggravate the problem. We aggravate the problem by apportioning blames, by laying judgment, by making people to actually get to have an angry feeling, to trigger them so they can react more and actually react in anger. Nobody has said that that woman taking the money is a good thing or bad thing, rather. Everybody is focused. How will you beat a woman like that? Will you beat a woman? Oh, beat a woman and beat a woman. That man is a this one. That man is a that one. That man is a this one. And my man is all sorts of insult love right center. Nigeria Vanessa, you're welcome and glad to have you. Please, those of you coming for the first time, you're very much welcome. Do your best to follow this platform. One of boys says it's not good, it's not a good thing, but it does not mean you should lay your hands on it. Okay. We have this one say it's always good to inform because you don't know what he keeps the money to do with. Thank you so much, Nigella. This one says give her emotional and financial grace. You now, this is not good. Always inform. See, let me explain this thing. We live in a dispensation where we have successfully coined women to be entitled. When I say women, I'm not talking about all women. I'm talking about 80 to 90%. Of course, women in Cameroon. Let me talk Cameroon. Let me not even go as far as Africa. In Cameroon, we have technically coined a lot of them to be quite to be a liability. Yeah, I'm so happy because somebody popped up. I'll be adding a person in a jiffy, but let's continue. Let's roll. Now, if you look at it keenly, the first complaint is that the man is giving just 10,000 francs as money for Christmas and New Year. And the next thing is that the neighbors are coming to contribute money. Point number one, how did the neighbor knows that the money that her husband gave is not correct in the first place? All of us are ready to we're here gender we are coming to the rooted part of this domestic violence. I'm going to analyze on two sides without being biased, and I stand to be contradicted or corrected in the comment section, or anybody else who come live can come live and join this panel. I want us to analyze it on two sides. Let's be very critical with our analysis and be truthful to ourselves, because we are over believing it. We are believing a lot of lies that is causing chaos and making life unlivable. Very few people really critically analyze. Yes, the man beat her, he is wrong. He should be punished for that. They should punish him for the beating. Now let's look at some of the things that causes beating. Because from a very tender age, more than 30 years ago, there are a lot of people, women. Oh, my master don't kumba me, master don't kumba me, run. Today they are still beating them. So despite the legal actions, despite violence from these women's family members, despite imprisoning them and fining them, and despite the divorce, all of those things have not solved domestic violence. Because if this guy can still lose it and kumba me this girl to that extent, he kumba me that girl, chai! If my sister, you're here, we're upskin, sincerely. But at one point, if my sister wrong, I go tell you the truth. But you're very young for her upskin too. And the next thing is, see, he beat the woman. All the punishment we give as levy for men that beat women has not been able to stop men from beating women. Yes, somebody will say criminality exists because they must be criminals. Yes, that's for sure. Brianna Ade, you're welcome. Hope you're doing great. Now, he beat this woman, she passed out. I mean, confrontation, physical one. And you hear the man crying, he gave me 10,000 to cook from Christmas and New Year. In that tears. When I watched this video, I was bitter in my heart, but I tried my best not to be judgmental. There is something that happens in situations like this. That when you come in, instead of trying to understand what happened before this man started reacting this way, we try to start by giving a man a fair dose of his own share. They will start giving a man his own share first. And when we finish giving a man his own share and then they might solve the problem, nobody will be there again tomorrow. If we don't solve the problem, the woman will still do the same thing and they will still kumbai. And most of the time, because we don't take time to go through the cause of what usually causes this violence at home. We don't usually analyze what usually causes this violence at home. In this particular case, this woman took the money, and the money triggered the man to act the way he acted. But that is not the only thing. Why don't anybody pay attention to the pain in this man's voice? Why is anybody not paying attention to the regret this man is having? When the man is saying the worst decision of my life, every vice you have, what kind of woman steals? Why is nobody hearing? Why is nobody paying attention to that? We only know to talk about 30. How much is 30,000? That guy looks like, if you look at him, you look at his structure, you will understand for sure that this man, 30,000 is what is 30? Let's talk frankly speaking. What is 30,000? This is not an argument or a debate for 30,000. It's about theft. Number one, I want us to analyze progressively. Theft, taking your husband's money without his consent. It's not a good thing, and we should not encourage that kind of thing. Although some lady says they want to me that when I see my master money now, my money, I will take him. What if the master see her own money, then take him? How is it going to be like? Because we have already taught women that a man owes you everything, but you don't owe him anything. What kind of silly mentality is that we are teaching? When I say women, let me repeat, I'm talking about a vast majority of women living in this Cameroon, Africa, Cameroon especially. We have successfully brought out liabilities in women. Successfully. They were like, when if I see my money, I will take them. I will take them. You know that the money is for what? What if there was money that was not even his, that was meant for somebody else to do it? For example, what if that money was to save somebody's life in the night and there is no mobile money kiosk or bank to actually withdraw? You look at that guy, you think that he lacks the money to give the wife? So let's go critically. Point number one, is this guy known for not giving money to the wife? Number one. If he was giving money sometime, I mean from when they got married, is it that he's a conto crafty man? Because they are very crafty men, eh? There are men that are very crafty. See, let me explain this. A rich man is not a person that gives money. Oh. Not every rich man gives money. It's just whether he gives money or not. This is where a lot of women fall tricky. You will see a man, you see a car, you see a comfortable office, and then you see a beautiful house, small beautiful house. You'll be like, I don't be talk for a man. Who tells you that those things guarantee him giving you money? And that's how you see where we have met this liability women that we are creating in this Cameroon like this. When they see that kind of man, that happens to be their dream man. Because it's very disappointing to say that the first thing a young girl learns as she's growing up is that I want to get married to a rich man. And see, what if you become a rich woman? I want to get married to a rich man. You see, let me take a few. And the next thing, when a man starts approaching her, she has in her mind that the man owes her. It's a good thing for a man to give money. Definitely, Odogu, give money. But at one point in time, don't take it as a right or obligation, because it's going to drive your attention from building that family based on love to building that family based on benefit. And one of the things that usually really frustrate some of these women is that sometimes when they meet a man that they expect to be giving money and the man not giving the money, they become very frustrated, because at the end of the day, they don't come fall in love with the man now, but the man need to give money. That's why it becomes a very frustrating thing for most of these ladies that are liability women. No, I'm not a liability, but my man should give me money now. I'll talk to one lady. I was like, okay, why should he give you money? He said, no, he should give me money. I'm a woman. A woman needs to be supported. Okay, why should he give you money? Tell me why. No, because he should give me money now. Why? Because I'm a woman and I was scrapping and say I will him. So I said, so they should pay you for dating a man. They should pay you. Now let's go progressively. Let me know weigh this on the women. I'm coming to the men and women. Bombard your comments. I'm coming. I will handle my gender very well. Let me take a few comments. He say, if women then be the big man begin, then forever, therefore, they will ever make mistake of bad thing. They do 50 of man begin. If woman be the big man begin, then forever make mistake or bad thing. If they do 50% of man begin them for hand the cap. I tell you, if women had the ability to beat men, you see that talk? Now their power that, which means if they have the physical ability, they would move man begin. I know. I'm telling you that today. I know a man that the wife beat him. I know the man, me, I know. One of the stories I say, I think that I know that I can point to the people like this that I know. But I'm not here to disclose people's problem and their identities. I might quote the story and you will hear it like that. Know that what I say is what I accept and is what I know. If she didn't see the 30K, would she not have cooked? That's a beautiful question. Would she not have cooked? So women, I was when I was reading the comment and I was with one woman, she just made a second comment, so did they give you 10,000? You know that kind of silent comment, like, huh? What does that mean? See, men, give money for your home. If you want to eat good food, give money for good food. Me, why am I like me my good food first and foremost. So I don't see any need where you cook posh and expect me to chop posh. So definitely, if you're coming to cook, give money for good food. But if the man does not give money for the food, mommy, if you get money, cook you a chop here. Because even by law, it is legal for a woman to actually support a man in their home. For that pass for law, we need to ever talk up. If your wife is earning, she has the right to participate in the finance of a home. Yes, Cameroon law. Cameroon. This Cameroon, then I'm abroad for Cameroon. But we don't talk about that part because we are glad in building our liabilities, and according to us, is giving the money. Imagine having being out the woman that is earning. I'm coming to domestic violence part. Remember, we're talking about domestic violence. So please, as you come in, you share. We're talking about domestic violence. We're not debated. Now, this one says, have you guys asked if the woman took the money? Maybe you go drink to where the money was on site. This is hilarious, but it could be true. All right, you see. All right, say Vera Novice say, all right, okay, Queen Odette, you're very much welcome. It says the woman is contented with the life she is living. That is why the man sees her as a liability and beats her at will. Let her step and upscale. This one point two that we should come to consider. Now, let me talk on this. On this. Now, Grace, that's one point and it's one possibility. I wouldn't say it's a fact. The next thing is we don't know if this woman is working. We don't know if this woman is working. Sincerely, I don't know. I don't know if anybody knows. It could clarify us in the comment section. We don't know if this woman is working. And it might be that she's actually the upscale that you're talking about. But because of the simple fact of what I am talking about is that we are training women to be liabilities. We are training women to actually allow. Do we know the definition of helper? Helper means I'm carrying this load, it is heavy. Then somebody comes to put the hand and they will carry it together. But today, a woman that is supposed to be our helper, you'll be carrying a load and they'll come and add their own and add the load on it. Yes, men don't complain because we bulldoze and we multitask to have much money to handle a lot of those things. But your 1 million might be 100,000 to somebody else. So if you're coming already from the foundation, the mindset that you're coming to add your burden, because a lot of the time, if you know the number of problems that women are working with in this outside, you just don't say good morning. My sister, oh, you don't finish. My pikin don't go swallow gas bottle. My mommy, they come over operating. They don't jam my small and so they're billing. Because we have that mindset. I'm not saying that's the case of this woman. But in a lot of cases, even the woman is working. A lot of them are not contented to partake in the finance of a home. That man might even be having his hard times that he does know he's struggling and the business maybe might not be going or he has some crisis. He might even have debts. And the woman can take the small 30,000 that's struggling to manage to say I can manage things to cook in the name of that she wants to cook. We don't know if she's working. If the woman is working, what if she's working? And if she's working, is it a good thing? Let's analyze those things critically. You see? So why will you date someone who won't give you money? That's the question. Because at one point when we're analyzing this thing, we should look at the fact that did these people not date? Did they not date? Did the woman not know that this man is not giving money? Or because was she part of the scheme that I will marry him and he will change? Because these are some of the silly mistakes we make that will lead to conjugal this domestic violence. You see some people with some particular kind of attitude. If you want somebody to change, work with them doing courtship and no go marry man say go change. Work with them doing courtship or dating or whatever thing. When I may hear then you go choose either you go say I will moderate a bad fashion and then manage your remaining one so or you leave it. You get married. A lot of people are victims of it that you get married to somebody and start thinking that the person will change. That's already shooting yourself by the leg. And look at it, why will you date someone who won't give you money? Question number one, why should they be giving you money? Are they supposed to pay you for being in a relationship? Let me explain some men's psychology to you. Let me explain my psychology. There are two categories of women. Number one, women that you chop life with. Number two, women that you put at home. Every woman should define her true color. Don't come and be an understanding girlfriend and start disturbing a man at home. If you want to be an understanding woman, you want to be understanding girlfriend and be understanding wife. If you know that you like you by money, be liking the money as they are dating you like that. Don't behave as though you don't like money. So the man will know if he wants to take this one at the chop life to put in the house. It's not a bad to like money. Even men, me, I like call me anytime, call money now. I like money very well. I dey wake up on my bed when I go work. It's like that, and that is how I am. They never expect anything from me. That's how I am. I like money. So women like money and men like money. The same way they give you give and you're happy. Men to also need a minimum. Imagine your small niece buying you something that you know it doesn't have the financial ability to buy you something big, but they give you something small. It's going to mean a lot to you. But we be the woman to be always on the receiving end. Say give you money now, give you money now, your papa. I tell you, why should a man be giving you money? Is your father? Say I better remain single than for the waste dating on a broke man or a stingy man. Yes, it is good to be open like that and be clear. So honestly, man beginning the build my way, her foot strong for Grace, you're crazy. Or this one say, so bro, you the first date girl, if you use expensive things, go to expensive places. You come say she's your girlfriend, mumu man. You that is doing understanding girlfriend. Wait till you see your hobby is spending on who your hobby is spending on. Money the taste with love, I beg. Yeah, that's the truth. But at one point, when you're talking of this particular aspect, this is what I think we need to also consider. If your man is not giving you money, does not mean that he's spending money on somebody else. There's a difference between wife and girlfriend and girl and a fling. Sometimes a man might just want to chill and in his company say, oh baby, what's a day? Let's meet at this place. Let's just chill and converse. We might finish and knock afterwards. What I talk or not talk and so it did. So you leave the house as a wife and be competing with people that are flings. Why not build a stable, beautiful home and discuss about your finances and be as transparent as you want a man to be transparent? Do you know most women in Cameroon are not transparent with finances? They work and hide money. If woman get 10,000, you got to say again at 1,000. Well, how do we manage to build a woman to be to be like that? If it's not that we want to make them to be liabilities, is it a good thing? Is that a good way you live? You make your life with somebody who is never sincere. You see, these are some of the things. It says women can also take 10K and multitask with it. Cook rice stew tomorrow. Add groundnut in it. Thank you, because I was coming to this because when I watched that video, I watched the video. I was like, even you go to welfare or a court, they are going to judge based on the minimum of what 10K can do. If they can eat, is that we do a lot of nonsense. If some of you visit a courtroom or follow some legal proceedings, you will understand that a lot of people, a whole lot of people, are committing a very major fallacy. You see, a lot of people are committing a very major fallacy because a lot of things we just feel like we are entitled to, we are not really entitled like that. A lot of things we think are correct. 1 minute, please. A lot of things which we think are correct. A man is supposed to do this. When you meet just a wrong man, he humble you. You understand what he's supposed to do, what he's supposed to do. You understand that's an avoid pain. Women, you don't see relationship and marriage is not a poverty escalation scheme. Don't carry a palava and go out and talk to man begin worry your head. Yes, some men can carry it without problem. Some men will carry and they will cause the vex. You understand? These are the things we should actually tell ourselves. I want us to tell ourselves some what truths today. Let's be very frank and sincere to ourselves. She talked of 10,000 francs. Logically speaking, you can manage 10,000 francs for 7 days. Yes, you can. You can. And if you look at that man, you know for sure that if he's not having a crisis, then is that he does not really want to give that money. And if he's not giving that money, what caused him not to want to give the money? We should stop solving problems from the middle. When we come from the middle, when there's confrontation and start saying, why are you hitting this man? We are not helping the situation. Let the law catch him and lock him and fine him and do whatever punishment that any man that is a victim of domestic violence should do. But when you want to solve a problem, be logical, such that it does not repeat itself. That's the only reason why I think that it should be logical. Never guess a man's money should just be a bonus. Say we know say money the fix woman. If you are a person where your hobby they give you money, you go know difference day or more understanding girlfriend they try. Yeah. Me, whether I like money or not, and define your state and let it be known from the start. Don't be understanding and later on come back to like money. So people have different reasons why they get into relationship and marriage. If you enter in a cause of urgent 2K, be ready to be slave and receive beating. Thank you. Those liability ones. Do you think that that is a liability? The man does not know that you're just after money, or money is one of the things that keeps you in. What happen? Okay, what will happen if the man has a crisis tomorrow? You look for the next person that can give you money now. I'm not saying money is a bad thing, but when we put our focus on money, we miss the essence of family. That love bond connection, we miss it. And we start making, and we have gradually turned this thing to be a man and woman war instead of critically looking at situations that might trigger violence or fight between male and female. Say we start dating today, tomorrow, I'm believing, all right, that's by the way. You see, we don't look at the critical analysis of what might trigger this kind of reaction. Most of the time, we apportion blames. And we apportion blames without even critically analyzing a whole lot of things. And this is where we miss it. In this case, the guy is complaining of theft. The woman is complaining that the man is not giving her money. And the neighbors are saying that the man is known for not giving her money. And the final thing we are seeing is a confrontation. Beating, confrontation. And it's at that point that we get to understand that there is a serious problem that needs intervention. The question I'm asking myself is, who was the one filming that video? Because I need to start from that person. He participated in this problem. You see? That will lead to confrontation. If we must solve this problem, we should look at the cause. I've seen a case where I went to a friend of mine was having a fight with a wife in when the living room, and then they were inside. You saw a man hit the door and came out. The witch cannot unlock this naked. I mean naked. I'm talking about a public speaker that speaks. If I is a politician, but not call the name. My God. And to a certain extent, from a male perspective, we are very familiar with blaming the men and sanctioning the men. But today, let's try to analyze some aspects from the male perspective. What did the woman do? She stole. Is she nagging? Did she insult the man? Is she provocative? Because there are many ways you can trigger a man to react wrongly. The reason I'm sounding this way is because when I watched the video and when I tried to research about that guy, I noticed that this guy is a peace advocate that even started doing some movement in the line of peace at a very tender age. I will not say tender, I was an adult already by then. And he has been working in a peace, he has a peace, he's a peace advocate like that. The big question, what will make a peace advocate to lose it like that? You watch and hear the worst mistake of my life. Now the next thing to the men, when it gets to a level when I'm beating, papa, if the matter don't pass your power, say mommy I beg go you, go you. Because at a certain level, you don't know when you will give that bad slap and he's 6 feet. You don't really know. Women like to provoke men, just take a you like that. Now parrot. And they will keep saying the ones that will pinch you to that point that you react. If it has gotten to the point where you have to hit your woman, then please tell her, Mama, it was nice doing business with you. On a very serious note, I think at this point I'm going to add, we have our guests backstage. We have two speakers, two wonderful people, two people that we are going to add them progressively. Once their camera gets on, I'm going to add them and they will continue the next phase of this conversation. Please, if you're coming in live right now, do your best to share to as many people as possible so that we have this beautiful conversation. Please share to as many people as possible. Keep sharing on WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you can share. Now, let me take this last comment and start adding. Boss, I agree with you. When you come pretending to be a good girl without asking money, etc., man get used to it. If you eventually start asking, it's gonna be a problem. That's what most women do. Women ask money, especially when you are working. Invest in your business, cause when the love will finish, you'll be heartbroken but richer. It's better to be sipping wine when crying heartbreak than on that empty stomach. That's one point. It makes sense too. So women come to stay or go away. Some women then come to stay. Oh, all right, I didn't get that comment right. So, ladies and gentlemen, your favorite coach B, the eloquent, beautiful, and very intelligent one. Glad to have you, Coach B. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Welcome. Happy Sunday, everyone.
Happy Sunday, everybody. And I think when Coach Russell comes to camera, we're going to add him as well. Oh, he's already here. Hi, Coach Russell. Glad to have you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
I can hear you 5 on 5. I can hear you 5 on 5. All
Beautiful.
right.
Good to see you. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you too, Professor.
All right. Now we have two coaches here, and I think it's time we get the point of view of experts. Now, it's good for us to understand, and it's good for us to know that Coach Russell is the CEO of Lao Gecko. Law Gecko. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Yeah. Pardon me. Law Gecko.
Yes,
Law
you are.
Gecko, based in the US, that deals with survivors of intimate partner violence. Now, all the while I've been triggering the conversation from the course. Please, those of you at this point, do the sharing to the most level you can because at this point the conversation is taking a different turn. Now, I was talking on a lot about the violence and looking a lot at the cause and looking about some of the things that trigger men especially to behave the way they behave. Because in this context, we are looking at a man laying hands on a woman. First, condemning the fact that laying your hands is not a good thing, but equally doing a control by trying to prevent further happening by looking at the cause so it can be prevented if it is bad. Nonetheless, if it's a totally violent person, it's good to stay away from that kind of person. Now, Coach Russell, I want to find out from you, what do you think could be the best remedy for domestic violence?
Huh. That's a very big question because it plays there are two components to this. There is the people who are experiencing the domestic violence themselves, that's the victim and the perpetrator. There is this we have to understand things from their perspective, because they are, like they
Yeah,
say, there are two sides of a story, sometimes even three.
yeah.
So, well, I would like to, before we talk about what I think is best, I'd like to share, I think, a movie that we all are very familiar with, Nganu by Kang Quintus. I don't know if a lot of people have seen it on Netflix. You know, Kang Quintus, he made a movie called Nganu on Netflix.
Orlando,
And
yeah.
you've seen it, right? That particular story, that movie kind of shed light on a lot of things that is very prevalent, not just in Cameroon, but in Africa and the world in general, right? Talk about marital violence, um, marital rape, situations where men basically abuse their role and their responsibility within the family, and talks
Mm-hmm.
about trauma, violence, forgiveness, and redemption. These are the elements of that movie that I liked so much. Now, to your question, what is the solution? I think domestic violence is very cyclical.
Yeah,
The father does it, the son sees it, the son continues, the grandson sees it, it continues generation after generation. if
yeah,
we know if we know basically that domestic violence has the possibility similar to what was portrayed in the movie, I think everybody has to come to the table to figure out what can both parties do to be intentional about preventing a situation from escalating. It will escalate. The question, to
yeah,
your point, I noticed when you were talking about the fact that if somebody gets to the point where they feel like laying their hands on another person, they should kind of say, hey, this is the time where we go our separate ways rather than getting physical with each other. I completely agree. How do we get to
mm,
that point where we are self conscious enough to know when to stop? Arguments will definitely occur, but the question is, does it mean that it has to be physical? The answer is always no. The question is, when do we stop being going from a conversation to an argument to a physical confrontation? If we are
yeah,
graduating at that point, we just need to be conscious and aware of it. So I do not know, I do not have an answer to say what is the best remedy because every situation is different. The question
yeah,
is, both parties have to be ready to come to the table to have a conversation.
yeah. So it starts from having a conversation.
Yes, a conversation starts with having a
Now,
conversation. Both people should be ready to talk through whatever the issue is. They should be ready
yeah.
to come in and have a conversation. Yes.
All right. Now, Coach Russell, there is this worry I have. This worry stems from the fact that this topic, when we talk about domestic violence, is something that has really been recurrent. You see, it has been recurrent in our African sphere for the longest period of time, for God knows how long. One of the ways which I know government and individuals have actually tried to resolve this particular issue is the first they try to punish a person that is actually the aggressive one. They lay blames, they bully, they send some to prison, and they actually place judgment like that. So it has gradually made it in such a way that in these recent times, if you look at it keenly with the story around the story here, you will see that most people commenting on this are gradually commenting from the perspective as though it is a man and woman or gender thing. And gradually we are looking at it that it is actually moving to from being a particular case with related situation to a man or woman thing. Now, what I want to find out from you is this. If we look at it from the angle that men in 2021 still have the guts to beat women. Now, and see, and as, despite all those challenges, don't you think there must be something that could be done other than what we are already doing to help quench this situation? And if you think there is something like that, what could be that thing? Coach Russell. Oh, I don't know if he's there.
So yes, there are a couple of things that we could do. There are a couple of things that can be done. it goes beyond
Yeah.
man and woman. The neighbors are also involved. The people, family members are also involved. It's a group activity. I think
Yeah.
so. I would like to start with the victims. So people
Yeah.
who are experiencing domestic violence, one of the things I would recommend would be they need to join groups. There are lots of groups out there. Take for example, like the Elanial, Elanial Services, Inspired Services. They are providing shelters, environments where people who are suffering from domestic violence they can come together and talk, listen, and be validated. I like to call it listening and validation, where
Yeah.
there's a safe space where victims can talk, share their experiences without judgment. Elanial Inspired Services does that. They need to take advantage of resources that is provided. On the internet, for example, there are lots of resources that connect victims with domestic violence, solutions in their environments. They should take advantage
Yeah.
of it. For example, our organization, the Law Gecko Initiative, is building such initiatives in Cameroon, as an example. We are building
Mhm.
shelters and resources to support women who are experiencing domestic violence. As an example, like in the recent case that we are talking about on the table right now, we are
Yeah.
providing a situation where victims like that, can receive counseling, support, and we can also connect them with resources where if money is the issue, they can be supported in a way where they can get back to starting a business, get back on their feet, be able to, like you just said previously, support their husbands and support their family. In the event they say, I not get work, or money not my problem, or I not get. Now we are saying you can be connected to places where you can get that support and be able to contribute. Then that's for the victims. So the victims can join support groups, connect with resources that can help them get back on their feet and be able to support the family. For the people who are the perpetrators, that is the husbands. Again, let's remember that domestic violence is not just restricted to men. There are cases where women themselves are perpetrators. They beat the men physically. You said it before in your call, because domestic violence is not just physical, right? Like we've discussed, it is emotional, it is financial abuse, it is sexual
Yeah.
abuse. They are all parts of domestic violence. So, whoever is the perpetrator, whether it is the woman or the man, they need to basically join counseling sessions where they can help, like anger management. Anger management is a big one, and it's not very popular in Africa where you see people going for anger management classes. But
Yeah.
we are trying to make sure that people are understanding that anger management is something that they need to participate in. Alcohol, when people use alcohol, it inebriates their action. It reduces their ability to think clearly and would force them to do things that they normally would not do without the alcohol. So the question is, what role does alcohol play in these kinds of conversations? How can we talk about people managing their alcohol intake, help them understand alcohol tolerance? You do not need to have 20 bottles or 50 bottles to show that you are a man. Help them understand the difference and what role alcohol can play in these kinds of situations. So, I mean, it's a conversation. The neighbors, as it were, neighbors, family members who are joining in. I've had situations where my family members who have experienced domestic violence, you hear people saying things like, the devil you know is better than the angel you do not know. And manage the men outside, nobody better. You keep hearing things like that. But the question is, you are not necessarily helping those individuals, because the person who is doing it will continue doing it because neighbors and families are supporting. See, what did the woman do? The man not will just act like that. You keep hearing things like that. And then the question is, how do we go away from blame throwing, finger pointing, to a solution where these parties can come to the table, talk through their problems, and find solution? If money is the problem, because if money is absent, people go crazy. No money for food, no money in the pocket. The husband would act out, the woman will act out, and when that happens, there is a tendency for an explosion to occur. So these are the things that we need to really look at. We like to call them the structural determinants of domestic violence, the issues that are underlying the one, because The 30,000 was the trigger in this case. But then, to your point, there were issues that might have been ignored for a very long time. And it was the 30,000 that was the final spark that led to the explosion. So, how do we address this, what we call structural determinants of domestic violence? These small, small things and not ignore them before they become the explosion that we see. This is how I would
Mm.
recommend that we solve this issue. It's a conversation, it is intentional, it is a group effort, it's not one person. We cannot afford to throw blames on the man, on the woman, or the woman. Everybody has to come to the table for this to work.
Well, this is swift. I want us to take a few comments and throw comments. Then maybe we'll get a one or two from Coach B, and then we'll come to Coach Rosa. This one says this comes from Isaiah Igor. It says, "Violence is a character. It will take a lot to change. A character which has been forged with years. We need to have a control policy which is effective. The state council does a decent job, though. Yeah, this one point. And Coach Rose, do you have any comment on this? Do you think violence is because someone is triggered or because it is a character? That's why I took this particular comment.
Well, just like the movie Ungano showed, right? When we say character, I like to see character as learned behavior, right? Learned behavior. Something that, let me say, somebody does something over and over again, it becomes the character. The character can be positive or negative. Some people call it a character flaw. I believe, in my opinion, I may be wrong on this. I'm not an expert on character and people's behavior, but I like to look at what research has shown. Research has shown that people are a subject of their environment. It's like your environment trains you to be who you are. So if
Okay.
you are in an environment where domestic violence is the norm, if you are in an environment where you see your father or your mother doing it, there is a high tendency that you will do it yourself in one way or the other, whether it is physical, sexual, or any of those the various forms of abuse. So to the question I was asked, if it could be a character if it is observed and internalized from a very young age, seeing whether it is you are seeing your neighbor doing it, you are seeing your parents doing it, or you are seeing your family members doing it. It becomes your way of life. You think it's accepted. So if I hear the question again, do I think
Yeah.
it's
All right.
violence?
Okay. I was saying, do you think the violence between a domestic violence, do you think is caused by a triggering action, or do you think it's as a result of character?
It
That's
might
what.
be it might be in the individual because they have seen it over time, but they have not had the experience or the reason to want to bring that side of them. Like they say, there is a devil in each and every one of us. The question is, what is that trigger? So if you have it in you, let's say you have a lot of anger and you are seeing that it's just waiting for that explosion moment to occur. I would say it's a combination. Let me just answer the question directly as much as I can. It's going to be a combination of internally you must accept that that is how you are going to express your anger, and then two, you would have the trigger. The trigger is something is going to happen that would force you to act in that way that you have accepted as normal. Let me give you a very good example. Here in the US, for example, it's accepted to have a gun. Okay, you can legally go into a store and buy a weapon. But now, here's the difference. Some people buy the weapon for self defense purposes. However, they may already have within them pent up anger and annoyance. Okay? Now, when something happens, let's say within the family, that person might eventually reach out to that weapon not out of hatred or malice, but because they've had that pent up situation, but because they have a weapon close by, they would reach out to that weapon and use it. So it
Yeah.
goes back to the same situation. Something has happened, but because they've not been able to deal with those root issues, it has been building in them over time. They are not addressing it, they are ignoring it, then they will take advantage of that available weapon to use it. Now, in countries like Cameroon and Nigeria, when they do not have guns, the next weapon they have is their physical hands or machetes cutlass or any of those things that they can find in their immediate environment. But trust me, the same person who can use hands can also use a gun if it is the closest thing they can find. So yes,
Okay.
it's character and circumstances, or what do you call it? Character and opportunity. Character and opportunity.
All right. One more question, sir. One more question, sir. One more before I get to question B. Now, there is this rampant concept as a solution. Even now, I just sent a broadcast message to many people like, what could be the solution for domestic violence? Everybody like, it's two things they but separation, divorce, and stuff. Now, there's this concept. Do you think separation is actually the best the best remedy for separation of divorce? Actually, the best remedy for domestic violence? The reason I'm asking this, I understand you have mentioned a lot of other remedies. The reason I'm asking this is most of the time we grow up with a lot of information circulation. If he beat you, come out. If he beat you, come out. You see, and we don't really look at a lot of things. There are factors like the man being triggered. One time I was driving along. I think I shared this story in my life here. I was driving along my neighborhood. I was coming down to my studio. I saw I could say they're a couple because they were putting on the same attire, a shwabi like that. The lady was carrying a baby here, and the man, the lady was carrying the baby on the left hand, and the man was walking on the right. So I stopped by to refill to do a mobile money transaction. I could tell that there was a problem because I saw the lady talking and carrying the baby and talking to the man and talking to the man and talking to the man. When the man wants to stop and look at her, she'll carry the baby and put it this other way. And when the man is going his way, she'll put it back and talk and talk and talk and talk. On the road, when the man will put it, she'll put it back this other way. In that kind of situation, very few men, because I could just imagine the kind of things that she would say, but the one that must pain you. The one that must pain you. In that kind of situation, is separation still a solution? Because we have a situation that nobody addresses to be very frank, in this Africa, Cameroon, about if somebody addresses the causes of domestic violence, it's about 1% or 2. It can never be more than that. Why you fair BT? You never picking? You the beat that son oh, my sister come out to go. Come on, little man. Ige papa, Ige brother. The woman herself, in fact, when they go and they themselves will run. And some of these father-in-laws will not even help the situation. You want to go there. You bring 50 liter of palm wine, 15 bag rice. They just leave you another charge. You see? And most of the time, we don't solve the problem that caused this violence. Now, I come back to the question. Do you think separation is an appropriate means for resolving domestic violence?
So I would like to use our experience here in the United States. It will
Yeah,
depend. It will depend on the situation, right? If it's life threatening, take
yeah,
for example a situation where the woman or the victim, I don't want to use the woman because the man or the woman can be a victim.
yeah, that's true.
If the victim feels like their life is at stake, meaning being in close proximity, being close to this person who is doing this violence, if you think your life is at stake, then you walk, you
Okay.
leave. Now, I would like to let me kind of explain that a little.
Mm-hmm.
Living is not easy. Living is not easy. There are a couple of things that would prevent people, women, it's very difficult. I myself, I have seen it in my family where it's some people on the outside will say, why you not come out? Leave. It's not as easy as you think because victims face numerous obstacles when they are attempting to leave. For example, they are afraid of the abuser, the person who is abusing them. They might Another issue might be financial dependence. Another issue might be fear of leaving the kids, lack of support, emotional attachment to the person. They might love the person, they don't want to leave. So these are various reasons why it's very, very difficult to leave. But here is it. If your life is at stake, some distance between you and your abuser is highly, highly encouraged. That way, both parties can observe the situation from some distance and be able to find a solution moving forward. So to your point, it is not easy, but it is encouraged when your life is at stake.
All right.
Yes. Or if you are the perpetrator, when I say the perpetrator, the person doing the violence or being extremely violent, if you are the perpetrator and you think that the way my body they do me, if I punch person if he die, if you think that the anger in you is so high, then you can walk and say, before I go kill this woman, spend the rest of my life in jail forever, I want to leave. Go to your friend's house, travel, go somewhere else really far for the situation to calm down. So it's not only the victim that can leave, the perpetrator can also step out to ensure that the situation does not get out of hand.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor. Now let me, Coach B. How you doing? We've had men talking from this
Good,
to
thank
understand.
you.
Let's let's
Yes,
let's let's have a female perspective. But I'll start by reading this question. When we talk of triggers, of what triggers a reaction of violence, can we say that the people who trigger it also have a problem that they need to solve? Could be. What do you think on that?
of course. They both the victim and the perpetrator might be dealing with other internal issues that have not been addressed. To Coach Russell's point, if they were exposed to domestic violence while they were growing up as children, it doesn't only affect the boys, it affects even the girls because the girls think it's okay for a man to lay his hands on them. And so if they grew up seeing dad laying hands on mom and mom was doing nothing about it, to them it becomes a norm. And so if they get into a relationship and the same thing is happening, they would stay there just thinking, hey, my mom took this, so I can take it also. And again, another thing that will happen is because they saw that while they were growing up, it builds in some trauma inside of them. And these are some of the things that will cause certain mental illnesses in individuals, be it just that person who observed it while they were growing up, it builds that trauma, and they grow up to experience what I might say psychotic disorders, that they are being delusional. They are just being paranoid. When they see certain actions, it causes them to act in a certain way, and their actions could be triggers to someone else. And that's why it's very important that as when you meet someone, especially for couples, because when I think of violence, it's not limited to just the man and the woman. It can go beyond that. Because if you have that violent behavior, your friends can experience it, your children can experience it, your siblings can experience it, and even your co-workers. So wherever you find yourself, that's the only way you think you can solve problems. So it's something that you need to talk about it around the people that your loved ones or the people that are always around you. Hey, these are some of my triggers. If you notice that I'm getting to this point, that's where self-awareness comes in. We need to know ourselves to the point where we understand our triggers. And if it's built in trauma, then you should have already known that when things get to this level, this is how I react. And to Coach Russell's point, you walk. You walk away just to breathe and just let it out some other way rather than putting your hands on someone. Another thing I wanted to call out is the consequences
Yeah.
of doing this are probably the reason why we still get people doing it. And we use the example in the West. When you do something like this, it goes into your record till till you die. Like
No,
it's in your record everywhere you. I'm sorry.
please, Coach B. The West. Say the West. Your West you're referring to is abroad, right? The U.S. So
Okay,
everybody.
let me just say the US.
Yeah. So I want everybody to understand. Please,
Yes.
write down.
Yeah, let me say the US. I don't know. It's probably not everywhere. So in the US, it goes into your record. for the rest of your life. If you
Yeah.
want to be hired, if they do a background check, they would find it. If
Yeah.
you are about to maybe adopt a child sometime down the lane, it will come up in your records. So it's out there, public information for anyone to see it. And because of those consequences, before you find someone doing that in the United States, they are probably reacting from substance abuse or alcoholism, like Coach Russell mentioned earlier. Someone who can rationally think will not find themselves doing that. They would rather avoid it rather than react. So I would think that most laws in Cameroon are mostly reacting to domestic violence. They don't have things that can proactively prevent that from happening. So what they have is the way they react to these problems. Neighbors will come in and try to separate the two persons and all of that, but that's it. But on this side of the world, they would give a restraining order. The restraining order doesn't only protect the victim, it protects even the perpetrator, because and in most cases, even when you've attacked someone, you think that that person is in a vulnerable state, but at some point they can do something which is also a reaction to the way they feel on the inside. So if you hit me so badly and then I rush into my room, maybe I have a weapon in my room, I can react to that. It escalates. Yes, it escalates the problem. So that's why they will give you a restraining order within a short period of time and go through investigations, make sure that you guys are calm before they bring you back together. It's both to protect the perpetrator and the victim. So I really want to call out the fact that in as much as we don't encourage domestic violence, if we do not start solving some of those problems that pile up. I think Coach Russell mentioned this. Those things that pile up until the day that you have this last trigger where the bomb just explodes, then we will keep having this. And that's because people do not even understand their partners very well. They don't observe enough to know when, hey, if my spouse is at 100, then I need to stay at 50, or I need to stay at 40, or I need to stay at 30, or I need to go down to zero so that he can come back down or she can come back down. The two persons find themselves at 100 at the same time, and that's when you see lows start coming out. And then these mental illnesses that I mentioned earlier, which could be things that people struggle with that are undiagnosed. That's we know that mental illness is not really something that is well spoken of in Africa or in Cameroon per se. If people have mental illnesses that have not been diagnosed, it means they are not being treated. So because of that, their behavior towards certain things, and I'm not saying that mental illnesses will cause people to be violent. Please don't quote me anywhere. Mental illnesses will not make people to be violent, but they might put them in a certain mental state whereby if someone were to trigger them in a certain way, they would react in that manner because they are not rationally thinking at that moment. So that's when they can be violent. But most mental people that are struggle with mental illnesses that act violently are the ones that are not managing their mental illnesses well. Meaning they are either coping or their outlet is maybe drug abuse, their outlet is probably alcoholism. And that's when, because of the mental illness and because of the fact that they are not managing it well, they end up behaving the wrong way. So this is how you can see the cycle continues too. Coach Russell's mentioned about the cyclical, the way this thing can become over and over. You can see another member of the family start behaving the same way. When you do that around children, you do that around your siblings, they can pick up that behavior, and then but before you know it, people call it character. It's not because that person was born violent, it's because they've been exposed to that, they've not seen any consequences, and trust me, there was a time I saw a lot of domestic violence when I was growing up. And within that community, men thought that putting your hands on a man, on a woman, is another form of masculinity. strangely, like being able to pound a woman makes you more of a man. And you cannot blame them, because that's what they know, and that's why they are doing it. Until someone comes in to remind them that what you're doing is not right, they will keep doing it, and it's a norm within that community. And before you know it, the next generation picks it up and keeps doing it. And then at the end of the day, they'll say the men that come from this part of the country are very violent men or very violent women. So I'll stop talking just so you can ask me another
All right.
question. I could just keep
Yeah,
talking.
I was jotting down a few of them because you talked of character, character. You talked at one point and mentioned character with the person's character. Uh, People develop a certain character that might trigger a toxic atmosphere, something of that sort. Now, I want to find out from you, Coach B. Now, the characters that people possess that causes this triggers, is it as a result of poor parenting, or is it that every couple has a responsibility to sharpen their partner? Because I always talk and relate to Cameroon, the place where I come from, and Africa as a whole, and maybe some other people that are watching might be experiencing this. The reason I do this because what we might say vary per the location, because what might be practiced here widely might not be practiced in the West or abroad. That's why I relate the content so we get the right direction. Now, this is it as a result of poor parenting? Are the parents to take charge of training and preparing each person, be it the man or woman, for marriage, or is it the partner's responsibility? We've had many cases of I've been married, the church say will change. They promise me they are going to change when we get married, but it's the same thing. This character thing of a problem, who is directly responsible for this character of a thing? The spouse or the parents of the spouse?
I think parents are only responsible for their kids' behavior when they are still children. Once they become adults, you don't have control over their behavior. And there's this saying that you give birth to a child, you don't give birth to their heart. I don't know how true that is, but at some point, if there's any responsibility that parents need to take, it's probably when those kids are still children, meaning from 0 to the age 11 or 12. You need to instill the best values in those kids. You need to expose them to the right things and teach them the right things. But so if you expose them to the wrong things, that's exactly what they are going to pick into their adolescence and their adulthood. So once they have passed that stage of being a child, if you can befriend your kids well enough, then you'll probably still be able to create an impact in their lives and the way they make decisions. And then
Okay.
it's not limited to just the parents. Remember, the home is one of the very first communities that children have. And they have the school, they have the church, they have other communities that they belong to. And that's why I'm very particular about when that child is still within the age of 0 to 11 years, because once they get into puberty, they now start focusing on their peers. And what you say is not as important as what their age group would say. So they have a lot of external influences at that time. That's when you need to step up, not just being a father or a mom, but start being a father, a mom, and a friend, so that you can still be able to support them. However, when you look at the mental illnesses I mentioned earlier, I think I talked about psychotic disorders, but there are other mental illnesses like PTSDs, post-traumatic stress disorders. There are bipolars. There's a borderline disorder. There's a personality disorder. All those things we cannot say they are all the fault of the parents. It could just be something genetic. It could also be something this child saw. Maybe you were driving one day and you almost got into an accident, and this created some sort of trauma in this child. So you're not going to say it's the fault of the parents. There are other things. It could be a natural disaster that caused that level of trauma. And because that trauma is trapped inside of that person, other things can trigger a certain behavior from that person later down the line, and you would not even know that you have that kind of that kind of monster inside of you until when something triggers it and then you behave that way. So in most cases, the perpetrators, after the act, they realize that the act was exaggerated. So if you
Okay.
give them moments, they look back and they can tell that what I did was terrible. But at the moment when they were doing it, they were acting on emotions. And that's because they could not control those emotions at that instance when it was happening. And that's why it's very important that the person who is closest to you can be your support line. But that is if they know that this is what you struggle with. If they don't know, they will not be able to support you. And that's why if this violence is continuous, it means that you're not doing a great job handling it, and the person that you keep attacking or the victim is not also doing a great job supporting you through that journey. And this is in cases where you've decided to stay in that relationship for whatever reason. Maybe for the kids, maybe because you're so attached to this person and you cannot separate, or maybe because the family is insisting that you stay there because there's no better out there. Once you decide to stay, you need to decide to also help that individual. And you're helping that individual by you need to stop triggering that individual, and you need to help the individual get the help that they need. If it's professional help that they need, for example, if the trauma that they've experienced has made them to be alcohol dependent, then you want to take them to rehabilitation so that they can get the help they need. Because you don't just keep people and you think that they are going to heal.
By
You
themselves.
they don't even know that they are struggling with that. So it's some other person looking at it from a rational lens that is seeing that this person is struggling with something. So you need to support them because you love them.
All right. I want us to talk, and then we'll finally narrow down and come to the subject matter, and I will give a little analysis on this topic from your both points of view. But before getting there, now I want to find out something. There's this comment that I kept on posting because I want to talk about something here. Say, Neighbor Grace, shout out to you, Neighbor Grace from Portugal. He says there are women who actually enjoy domestic violence as a sign that the man loves and cares about them. Do we also consider this as domestic violence or is love language? Because I remember there was about some years ago, that was sometime in 2014. Yeah, a friend of mine got married, and then he he told me the wife was actually a very nice mama. I mean, that woman can talk. Even I myself, I used to always avoid some conversations we have because she can talk and trigger a lot of things. Now, the wife used to talk and act like that, and not but towards the husband was elevated somehow, but not with everybody. But with the husband was elevated. This lady is from one of the regions, one of the villages here in the central region, which I don't want to mention the name. And they went now to see the father a few months after they got married, about 5 months like that. They went to greet the girl's father. The girl's father was like, she was like, how is marriage going? Is everything okay? The guy was like, okay, so feel free. Tell me, is everything going? If it's not, if something wrong, tell me. Is my daughter suffering? You tell me so that I can know how I could help you out. The guy was like, Papa, I won't lie you. This girl is troublesome. And the father was like, oh, okay. Do you beat her? He said, no, God forbid, oh, God forbid that I lay my hand on you. She can never be. The father laughed and told him that you see the mother and the beat her. That then in this place, if you don't beat her, she will just disturb you and she will think that you don't love her. Now, when it comes to this kind of situation, oh, Coach Ru just stepped out. Coach Ru said, do you think this can be considered as domestic violence or a pure display of love?
So I'm not an expert on the way you kind of described it, but I hear that a lot myself.
Yeah.
Um, I will say, okay, that is a cultural thing. It is a culture. So let's start from there. It is a culture. Going back to why is domestic violence a persistent issue that no matter what you do, we always see it almost every day. It's
Mhm.
because the culture supports it. Based on what you just described, the father saying, I beat the mother because that's how they behave. It's a cultural thing, meaning the parent is giving you support and saying, this is what you need to do. As a man, you'll be like, okay, if that's what they are doing, then I don't want to be, I would also continue the culture. Okay. But, you know, it's wrong in all its ramifications because going back to what we are trying to do, the community, family members play a role in helping with this domestic violence. Putting your hand on another person in any shape or form is a form of human rights abuse.
Yeah.
You are abusing your fundamental human rights, whether it is your parent telling you to do so or your pastor telling you to do so. You are abusing another person's rights.
Yeah.
Here in the US, for example, if you slap somebody, for example, here in the US, you get arrested. You get arrested. So let's say you go to the store, for example, and you and somebody are having a conversation. You can say all you want because you have free speech. But then when you come into the person's space and you lay your hand on the person, you get arrested because that is called what's the word in the US they call it? Um, I'm forgetting the when you lay your hand on someone, they call it what's it called? Abuse. No, there is a term they call it. It just kind of skips my mind. When you
All
lay
right.
your hand on someone. Yeah, Coach B, you want to tell me?
Is that a mis? No, I don't think it's a misdemeanor.
Yeah, it's
Is
gonna
that
you're
it?
gonna be charged as a under the misdemeanor act, but then it's a there is a term for it when you just touch someone. Um, I'll remember if the term
All
if
right. No
if
problem. I think you can just write on. We get the
as we
point.
go. So here in the US, and they arrest you for it, you might spend time in jail, you might be charged to court, and you're gonna battery. Yes, battery. That's the word. Somebody just said it. Battery. That's it. Now, in Cameroon or in Africa, I don't want to say just Cameroon, but in Africa, because we have laws against battery, but there is no enforcement. Even when you go to the police station and say, he slapped me, he slapped me, they would say, go back and go and deal with your family members. Go and deal with it. They say, go back and deal with it. They say you should deal with it yourself and let's handle issues like robbery and other issues, important issues, and not your issues. Go and deal with it with your family members. So that is the problem. If we can have enforcement of those laws to help the victims, then we can start dealing with those issues. It's not love when you lay your hands on anybody. It's not love. It's not concern. It is just purely, I would like to say it's devilish, for lack of a better word, because you are breaking somebody's fundamental human rights.
All right. This is clear enough. Okay. Now over to you, Coach B. There's one question I've been pending to ask you. This is given that you're a lady as well. There is a popular saying that when a woman is nagging, insulting, or provoking a man, even men will say, "Na so woman and they, na so woman." That's how women are. You see, and they say you're hitting her. Did she also hit you? She insulted you, insult her. But when you insult back, they say you talk like a woman. Now, do you believe that women are formed? I mean, you're a woman. Are women actually really formed to be in a particular kind of problematic way to provoke people, or that it's just that there are some people that are just troublesome?
It's not biologically proven that women naturally look for trouble. So there are just some humans that, again, when you say people look for trouble, it's just that their behavior does not align with other people's behaviors. To them, they think that's the natural way of them to behave. That's the way they know it. That's what they know, and they're just going by it. Still going
Yeah.
back to what have they been exposed to? What is that cultural thing to them? What do they think is right and what do they think is wrong? So if this is all they've known as right, that to communicate to a man you need to yell at the top of your voice, that's exactly what they'll do. It doesn't mean that it's something that cuts across the board. There are just some women that are very quiet. They will communicate in different ways. So I don't think it's a universal thing for every woman, even though majority of women do a lot of that, have a sharp mouth, and if you know that that's how women are, then you're associating that character to women. So you need to build resilience towards that behavior. If you already know that that's how women are, then if they start talking, you know that's a woman, that's being a woman. So be a man and not act like a woman. So that's why I'm denying the fact that it's not a universal thing that women have a sharp mouth. Again,
All right.
it's about what they've been exposed to, what they think it's correct, what they think it's normal, and all of that. They just do it until when they realize that it's not the right way to behave, or this is not what the man wants, or this is not what the woman wants. Then they start to they stop that behavior.
All right. Okay. Now, Coach B,
And I
I
see
wanna.
someone mentioned in the chat that some women don't hear anything until when you give them a slap. I mean, I will
Yeah.
still say it's a cultural thing. Remember, I use the example of my community that men just beat women, and that's because they thought beating a woman makes them more masculine. And the women there, it was normal for them that the men would beat them, and then the next day they will still be there. The man will beat again the next day, they will still be there. So I was exposed to some of those behaviors within my home where I was growing up, but I knew that it was wrong because with violence comes blisters, comes pain, comes sorrow, comes anger, and you see those behaviors around you as a child. And if you grow up and decide to keep doing that, it means you just enjoy pain, you just enjoy seeing those bruises, you enjoy just seeing a lot of sorrow around you. That's what I think violence showed me. It showed me unhappiness. It didn't show me happiness. So, and that's why I will not encourage that behavior as a person, even though I was exposed to that.
All right. That's a beautiful one, Coach B. Now this is in line. I'm putting this up this question because it's a very strategic one. It says, Isaiah Igor, big shout out to you and glad you're live and follow. It says, we keep talking about victims, but why doesn't the law also call out as in as an as in find a punishment to a nagging attitude to avoid such situations of domestic violence? Because we know one of the main triggers of domestic violence is nagging attitude. Now, that's one of the things, and it's in conjunction to what I was saying, because we have gradually normalized the fact that a woman is supposed to insult. In fact, not just insult, do everything, and a man is not supposed to react because, of course, he is the man. There are points where this one I saw it. One guy was talking with a girlfriend. It was my former neighbor back then. I mean, during student era, they were talking. They were in a heated argument, and by the time the guy got angry, I say he wanted to leave the argument. The guy came and pushed his head. His reaction that was quite provocative, and definitely we know for sure that we have taught the women to do anything, and they are not going to. Nothing's going to happen if the man there. He may try to touch you. Even a woman might even be beating a man on the road, and men will be laughing. But the moment a man attempts to raise his hand, is his fellow man will come and deal with him. This narrative of the society, I think, is something that we need to really, really, really review. And the next point, which I want to also look at from the part of the person that is a victim, that is always a victim. Most of the time, the victim is usually the trigger, and that's what get the beating. And sometimes we should also try as much as we can to avoid attitudes, because I say if you know that as a woman, that's how a woman is. Me, I choose not to believe that a woman is like that, because if you say a woman is like that, it means a woman has a genealogy of, I mean, for those who say that women are like that, they have that aspect of badness in them. And I believe a woman is not a bad person. She just learns how to become a bad person based on growing up or what she chooses to believe. And she can always unlearn bad things and learn new things to make life a very beautiful one. Now, I want us to come critically into the analysis of this our story. The story is the story of a guy that had his wife beaten allegedly because she took 30,000 francs. Took 30,000, that was his without his consent. I don't know, it was from his pocket or his wallet or whatever. That was his and without his consent. And it's allegedly said that the money was used to cook food that he also ate because the money he gave was not enough. And the money he gave was allegedly 10,000 francs. That was to take them from Christmas to New Year. We're talking about 30,000 francs that was taken that was not given, and we're talking about 10,000 francs that the man gave to the wife as food money, which was not enough. And at some point, the neighbors contributed money to give her to cook food in her home. One gave 10,000, one gave 5,000. Now, I want to find out from you, Russell, from a male perspective, who do you think is wrong in this story? Is it the man or the woman?
So again, I'm not an expert with men and women, but this is what I would share. I
Okay.
like to look at it from I like to look at it from an ideal situation because this issue, the part that was reported, again, the part that was reported might not be the entire story.
Thank you.
There might be other elements of this story that nobody is talking about, either from the man, the woman, or the neighbors or people around. So
Yeah.
with we are only going to react with the information that we have. The information that we have says that the man did not give enough money, the woman took money to provide food for the family.
Yeah.
If you look at it basically from the surface, it makes common sense. She's taking money to provide food for the family, the man is withholding money, and it looks like the man is the bad guy in this case because the woman was taking the money to provide for the family. It looks clear cut and simple, but I don't think it is. There might be an issue, an ongoing issue with both parties that nobody has is talking about. The man might be going through a psychological breakdown, going back to what Coach Bonita talked about, which was he might be experiencing trauma, he might be experiencing a lot of things. And
Yeah.
that situation with the money was the trigger that forced him to act in a certain way. The woman herself might be experiencing a lot of difficult situation. She might be struggling herself. And the only way, rather than going out there to beg and collect monies from family members and neighbors, she decided to take the money that she has available in the house with her, which the husband might have kept for very important things, maybe like paying some debts that he might be in or any of those things. Bottom line is there was a misunderstanding. Both parties did not talk together. They did not come to an agreement. They acted independently, and the result was the man eventually had to lay his hand on the woman. When I saw the video, I was heartbroken because I think it was the way he chose to express his dissatisfaction over what the woman did was excessive. He was laying his hands on her. From what I saw in the video, he was choking her to the point where she almost lost her life. And
Mhm.
the way I see it is, if she had eventually succumbed to that and she had died, if that did happen, if he was rotting in prison, what would he explain to his children? That because of 30,000 francs, or whether it is 100,000 or a million francs or 30
Yeah.
million francs, whatever it is, how are you going to
Mhm.
explain or justify that anger when you are rotting in prison? So I think that he acted without thinking. No matter whatever prompted his action, he was not thinking. He acted out of what we call pure rage. And rage is uncontrolled anger. See, there is fire, there is inferno. A fire is something that, okay, fire, you see fire burning, you can control it. But
Yeah.
when it gets to inferno, you cannot control it. That's where you run for your life. He
Yeah.
is at that stage where he's at an infernal state, where he could not control his anger and he acted on his animalistic impulse, which was
Yeah.
to kill at that point in time. It was very dangerous. I think that man has to go for deep psychological counseling to
Mm.
control his emotion, his impulses. He has to go for anger management classes, and anything that would trigger him in the future, particularly around money. He and the wife basically they have to go for counseling to address that. I don't think anybody is at fault. I think there was a trigger. I think there are very deep issues that are psychological in nature that has to be discussed and addressed. They have to go to speak with an expert who can help them understand these issues deeply. Who right and wrong is not cannot be determined from the actions. The action is only the aftermath. It's after the action is the what was the word? Is the visible expression of what has happened before. So I think to address it, we need to basically just focus on what are those issues in
Wow.
time and let him speak with the experts. Let's not look at the action because the action is the after effect of what has happened. Let's go back, dig in, and understand what is really happening internally in the minds of these two individuals. I don't think sending him to prison is the solution. I don't think, giving her money is the solution. There are other fundamental issues that has to be addressed first before we cannot address the other issues that could come ahead of it.
All right. Thank you so much, Coach Rosa. I mean, this is really deep. There's this one that came up. The man is supposed to be the provider, protector, and defender in his home. And it comes to say this Eugenie Kemka. Hope you're doing okay. Glad to have you. Say the man is the bad guy here. Now that's is a normal phenomenon for what we have now. Coach Rosa, I want to find out this thing from you. I believe from your texture, I know you're African. You're not a white man. And I don't know what I don't know is if you've lived in Africa before. And what I want to find out from you, finding this out is just to know whether you have a melange of the two cultures. Previously, you talked about people in Africa, which means you have an idea of how Africa works. All right, it says, do you believe this is the standard we should uphold? Do you believe that this is the standard we should uphold? The man be supposed to be the provider, protector, and defender, especially the profession part of it. Let's put defender and the other one outside. Do you think a man should solely provide for a home, even if the woman is working or not?
Okay. So yeah, to address this issue, I think we might look at it from two perspectives. There is one that is there is one that we promote all the time, the Christian view. The Christian view, for those people who are Christians and what is taught in the Bible, possibly in the Quran and other things, they describe the man as the provider. So, from a biblical perspective, the man is the head, is the provider. Now, women have been working tirelessly to make it clear, and I support that there is gender. What was it called? What's the word? Gender. It's a term. Women are advocating for what's the
Gender-based
word?
violence.
No,
Policy.
equality.
Gender violence,
Women,
okay.
women are fighting for equality. They've been fighting for nearly 50 years, starting with the women movement here in the United States. That women are equal and should be equal, and should share in money, in everything, in responsibility with the man. I personally, I agree. If women think and men think that everybody should be treated equally, I think it's fair to be given an opportunity. I don't think anybody should be solely responsible for taking care of the home. If both parties are coming together to become man and wife, they should basically take care of that responsibility together. The woman is as equal to the man in the home. The man should provide, the woman should also provide if she is able. In the event that she is not, maybe she is pregnant, maybe she is sick, maybe she is ill, the man can step into that responsibility. Same as the way a man would step into the responsibility to support in the kitchen. It's not a woman thing where a woman should be the one responsible for just cooking. No, the man should also step in. If he's able, if he's hungry and his wife is not available to help, he should help. So the way I will see this is this: everybody has a role to play in this. However, somebody takes the lead. So in providing for the family, the man and the woman are equally responsible. So in project management, they say accountable and responsible. Somebody is responsible and somebody is accountable. In other words, the man is accountable for providing for the family, but both parties, man and woman, are responsible for providing for the family. The woman is accountable for taking care of the food in the kitchen, but both parties are responsible for cooking. So there is no one person. It is going back to roles and responsibilities. Somebody is accountable and somebody is responsible. In this case, both one is accountable, but both are responsible. So,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you so much. Now, there's one I want to shoot again before I jump to Coach B. See, I want to find out this. People are responding to what I'm saying. Some are coming to WhatsApp. I always say people come and comment on Facebook because a lot are coming to my WhatsApp. I want to find out something. Mm. Did that woman steal? Coach Rose said, did that woman actually see what she did? Can it be considered as theft?
So let me use my own example. When I was growing up, when I was growing up with my dad, I had a dad. My dad was a strict disciplinarian, very strict. And I graduated from school and I wanted to study information technology. I studied chemistry, sciences. And when I wanted to study, what I wanted to study, the program I wanted to study was very expensive. He refused to give me the money to do the program. I knew he had the money, but he didn't want to pay for the program for me. And what eventually happened was, after going back and forth and he wasn't giving me, one day I went in, I took the money, I went to pay for the program in information technology. The money was, at that point in time, it was about 300,000 US, I'm sorry, 300,000 naira at that time. This was nearly 15 years ago. And I took that money and I paid for the program. And when I came back home, I told him, hey, Dad, I know you didn't want to pay for this program, but you remember that money that you gave me to do this? I used it for this program. My dad was livid. He was mad. He was pissed. He was angry. You know, my mom came that day, and anytime he's pissed, and anytime I do something bad, he refers to my mother as your child. So you see your son, he took that money, he stole that money and everything. And my mom, after listening to all he said, she said, other children will steal money and use that money and go and drink beer and womanize and do stuff. Your son stole money and he decided to pay for education that he has been asking you and hounding you for a very long time. If he steals money and pay for his education, if he gets, I would tell him to keep stealing your money to pay for education. You know, but the point was, my dad didn't talk to me for 2 weeks, and I made it a habit to make sure that for that program that I stole that money for, I was very successful. I eventually became the best student in the class, and eventually that's how I was able to move from sciences. This was in 2006, no, 2000, yeah, 2007. I was able to move from sciences into information technology, and eventually, information technology is that became my. That's what I've been doing for nearly 20 years. And thanks to that action that I did, it was in looking back retrospectively, stealing is bad, but the intent for taking the money was what is important. In this particular instance, like with this lady, all stealing is bad. I will not advocate for it. However, what is the intent in this particular example? Say, let me give you an example. If the house was burning and the house was on fire, and she took that money basically to go and buy water or any chemicals to prevent the fire from burning, would that be considered as stealing? If the son or if they had a daughter and she went to the hospital. He traveled, and the daughter was rushed to the hospital, and they say we need 30,000 francs to basically save your daughter's life. And she goes back and takes that money. Would that be considered stealing? So yes, she took the money, but then what is the circumstances behind the action or the inaction? The intent in this case was that of goodwill to provide for the family. And is the intent whether if it was if this case was taken to the court of law, the intent will be looked at. What was the intent? Did she take it and go to the bar to drink beer and squander the money, or did she take it to provide for the family? If she took it to provide for the family, I don't think, in my opinion, that she should be penalized to the point where she almost lost her life. It doesn't make any sense. There is no justification for that action.
All right, that's perfectly understood. Coach B, if you find yourself, if you find yourself in that woman's shoe, will you take that money to do what?
Of course, I will. I
Which
will
means we're
because
all
yeah, I
all right.
will take the money. So I think I agree with everything Coach Russell said. The only missing piece there is she took the money without the consent of the owner. However, if I want to check, probably these two, they're a couple and they have a joint property, which means what belongs to the husband belongs to her. So the money belongs to her too. And so if she, rather than keeping the kids hungry, she took the money to feed the family, then I don't think he should have reacted that way. And it's obvious that he reacted that way based on other things, not just the fact that this woman took this money. If it's just the fact that this woman took this money, then he overreacted. So if I were in that woman's shoe and there was no money to feed the family, I'll take the money.
Hmm. Coach B, do we know what we are saying? Okay. This is what we are saying. We're not just saying that the woman did not do anything that is bad. We are also telling the other women watching us that if your husband is not giving you money to cook, or the money is giving you not enough, and you see his money, take it.
No, we're not saying that women should go about stealing their husband's money. That's why I said she took the money without the consent of the husband. That's what is wrong about it. Because at the end of the day, when the husband asked, how did he know that the woman took the money? It's probably looking for the money and then asking, where is my money? And the woman probably said, I took the money. So, but when you take something and you don't even own up to taking it, that's when it's even worse. So, we're not encouraging women to steal because taking that money without the husband's consent is considered stealing. But
Mm-hmm.
when you look at it on the flip side, this is the wife, this is the mother of his children, and he took the money to get food for the family. Which, how did he know that the money was for food? He probably asked, where is my money? And the lady said, I took the money. And the next question was, what did you take? Why did you take my money? There was no food in the house, and I took the money to buy food.
And he also ate.
And he ate the food. So there's evidence that the money was spent to get food. It's not like he didn't see any evidence that this is what the money was used for. That's why we're concerned here, because if the woman had refused that I didn't take the money, that's when it's even worse. Like, you have a thief in the house. But the woman said, I took the money and this is what I did with the money. So him reacting that way, he reacted that way not just because of that money, all the other things that he mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Now,
Yes,
yes, if we listen to the video, you'll notice that sincerely, 30K is significant. Let's be frank. Well,
yes.
to some it might be, but frankly speaking, 30K is insignificant. Let's not lie ourselves. 10K itself is insignificant. Now, 30K, I think this man is reacting because of a lot of frustration. If you hear this guy's voice, you hear pain, you hear regret, you hear frustration, you hear anger or rage, like Coach Russe said, rage. And all of this was all of I want to say the theft, but I'm tempted to say I don't know if she took it or she stole the money. But let's just say okay, the money that she took triggered it, all of that. And that's why, because he poured out his emotions in a what kind of woman steals the worst decision of my life. Now you notice that he has a lot of regret in that, because of maybe it's not going the way he thought it was supposed to go. And you see a lot of situations like that. Never Grace says the woman thief make man go spoil the, okay, no, that's just a fault. Now you see, in situations like this, with the neighbors coming in, because I like to, what I'm doing is I don't just want us to talk about this on the surface. On the surface, it's very good for us to actually look at some critical analysis. Why? Such that we should be able to prevent this kind of situation. That's why I'm asking if we believe that the man should be the sole provider, to the sole provider, because it is tricky in a country like Cameroon, where we have women that are living in homes that already, when somebody grows up with the notion that I no get forgive anything for that money, for that house, that one at the mass I own, I beg. Even if she has, she's not actually going to give. And in some cases, what we don't know is that a lot of homes are financially backed by some women. A lot. But they don't come out like that. The ones that do it, the ones that don't do it are usually the loud ones. That's why I was putting the question for us to understand or establish the fact that the man should be the one to carry the burden. Because I always look at it from the on the aspect of help. If the woman is a helper, then she's coming to support the man to carry the load of his life, not to add her own. Now, in most cases, women believe that the man's money is their money. In Africa, Cameroon, in fact, Africa, once as you get attracted to a lady, she automatically believes that you owe her money, and she believes that you have to be giving her money. There are two things I want to talk about here: the fact that the man is giving money that is not enough, and the next part is a point that it gets to a point where even the neighbors have to intervene to give money to provide. My God, provide money for a man in the house to come and eat. I think that's one of the greatest level of degrading the man. That means the man just need to leave the house for the neighbors to run him. Sincerely. Now, one point is, Coach Russell, do you believe men are supposed to give women money they are in love with, or their wives or their girlfriend or somebody that they are building a life with? Do you believe in that concept? And what do you think we should promote? Is it something we should promote, or there's something that is better off to be promoted than that?
When you talk about giving people money, how do we? I don't know if I'm the best person to really address this question, but I think money. So I don't know how best. I don't know how best to answer this question. I believe that. So I don't agree with the idea of people just sitting and expecting. Expecting that one party should give and the other should just be receiving. I think it's a two-way street where
Okay.
both parties should be able to support each other. I mean, first of all, a man who is going into a relationship and understand anybody you are going into a relationship with, whether you are a man or a woman, you are looking at the individual not just today, but you are looking at the future. What's the person bringing to the table? A man, for example, let me give an example. A man, you are looking at a man today and you know that this guy has potentials. He might not necessarily have money, but he has a career, he has potentials, he has dreams, and those dreams can be converted into money in the future, tangible assets. Same as a woman. You are getting into a relationship with a woman, you are looking at not just her today, but also what she brings to the table now and in the future.
Mhm.
That's the way I see a relationship. That way it can be a two-way street where both parties can be able to support each other where and when necessary.
Mhm.
Now, when you get into a relationship where you do not see any of those potentials, you're attracted to her looks, her beauty, her physique, her curves, how she's looking today, and you tend to forget that those things will change tomorrow. And you are not looking at the potential or ability to contribute to that relationship financially and otherwise, then you are setting yourself up to fail. You are setting yourself to get into the conversation where you will be the sole provider and she will be the sole recipient. She would only receive and she's not going to contribute. And that's going to always bring issues down the road. So I would say the people who ventured into that relationship from the start, if
Mhm.
they did not consider this factor as to what will this person bring to this relationship from a relationship perspective, from a financial perspective, then they have set themselves up to have this kind of conversation in the future. So I wouldn't empathize with a man to say, oh, my wife is always collecting and she's not bringing. You would have seen this from the beginning of the relationship. If you did not see this in the beginning, that means you do not have the foresight to, in the first place, to even, you do not have the emotional intelligence, you do not have what it takes to get into a relationship. You do not have any, a relationship is a responsibility between both parties. If you are not willing to take on that responsibility, if you're not willing to step into that shoes, then not even getting in the first place. Stay on your own. If you're not ready for that relationship, if you're not ready for that responsibility, stay on your own. If you understand, you can see a woman, she looks beautiful. You know that she doesn't have the potential to contribute to that relationship financially. And then you should make peace with that from the beginning, accept it, and be ready to continue doing that providing all through the life of that relationship and do not complain. You do not have a right to complain. But if you get in and she refuses, she's able and she refuses, that's a different conversation. That's where both parties will have to talk through it with an expert, a psychologist maybe, who can walk them through how being in a relationship is a shared responsibility for
Okay.
everybody.
All right. Coach Joseph, I want to show one more. Does it permit?
Yes, yes.
All right. Okay. Okay. Now, what could be the preventive measure to domestic violence? What could be done to prevent domestic violence?
Three things. Um, Three things. I think three rules would have to come together to help. One, the victim. Two, the perpetrator. And three, the community. Victims will have to reach out and talk. A lot of victims don't talk about these things. They bear it they keep it to themselves. Maybe this woman would have been saying, the woman in this case, she might have been having this situation where her husband is very volatile, filled with rage, but keeping it to herself and not sharing it with anybody. So she's not getting any help. It's only when the situation almost cost her life, that's when they shared it. And I was looking at it, somebody was taking that video and he could not intercede, could not stop it. They were strangling somebody in front of you, and nobody was talking about the person taking the video. Who is that person? Who they are killing somebody in front of you, and you could not stop it. That is a big issue. So that is goes back to the community and family members. That could be a family member, that could be a friend, and you could not say, "Wait, somebody is dying in front of me." Our love for taking videos in this age and this generation is so sickening that people
Yeah.
just want, they are seeing somebody dying right in front of them. Rather than taking action to help, they want to bring their phone and record it. It's crazy. This generation is crazy. I've never seen anything like this in my life. We
Yeah.
should come and stand. A hero is somebody who takes action in the presence of injustice. An injustice is happening in front of you. You are taking a video. Why don't you, okay, if you must take a video, drop the camera somewhere, and then intercede, help and save that woman's life from that madman in that state where he was in, where he wasn't thinking properly. Why not do
Yeah.
that? So going back to the question that you asked, the community can play a role. We have to be involved. We have to be active. We have to engage. We need to understand that the community, this domestic violence is not just a it's not a one size fits all. If it's your neighbor, your children are seeing it. So by extension, your children are learning that this is the accepted behavior. If you, as a neighbor, you are seeing this happening to your neighbor and you're not doing anything, rest assured, it is a circle. It is coming back for you because your own children are observing that, they are internalizing it, and they would act in that way in 10, 20 years from today. You would not know
Yeah.
where it came from. You would say, I didn't teach you. How did you become this violent? It's what they saw. So, what would you do? How do you teach your children and your family members that this is not accepted behavior? You engage, you speak, You talk about it, you are involved, you stop it, and you say, hey, this is not behavior. You have the conversation, even if it's not your issue directly. That's what I would say for the community. If you're a perpetrator, you are doing this, you have rage, go and see a psychologist, go and help yourself, because if you do not take action, you are going to kill someone. And when you do, you will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Nobody's going to say because my wife was nagging, and no, that's a stupid excuse that's not going to fly in the law, in the eyes of the law, or anywhere else. It was your action, and you're going to suffer the full consequences. Your life is going to be cut short simply because you didn't have the ability to control yourself. If you are a victim, seek help, go to counseling groups, talk to other people who are experiencing it. There are these communities that are available. Elaniel is one. Lawgecko.com is another. Go to these locations, you will get help. There are people out there waiting for you to speak, share your pains, and they can give you the support that you need to be able to weather the storm.
Wow, wow. Thanks very much, Coach Rosa. Please, can you tell us a little bit about Logiko?
Oh yeah, Lawgecko is a website. It's an application that we built, and it would interest you to know that we had to close about 300 Cameroonians, Nigerians, and a couple of folks. They came together to build this solution. Logecko has been around for nearly 5 years. It's a domain. It's a website basically that addresses intimate partner violence or domestic violence. People can go there and chat with an AI chatbot that also has a human element. So if you are chatting, for example, with the AI and the issue is too complex for the AI, it directs you to a professional, which is a doctor, a doctor, a psychologist, or even a police to help you when you are dealing with domestic violence. So I would suggest individuals to go explore the website. The website is going to be shared on the page www.lawgecko.com, and we are constantly building, adding features and functionalities to help victims of domestic violence. It's not just for the victims, but also perpetrators can help. It would also interest you to know, we come to know that we're also building a domestic shelter in Yaoundé. We're building a nine flat domestic shelter in Yaoundé that is going to be helping victims of domestic violence. It should be ready before the end of this year. Where victims who are experiencing violence, they can go there. They would receive support in form of training, in form of capacity development, in form of skill acquisition, and also finances as well. We are putting that in a place where donors can donate to help these women get back on their feet. So in the event that they have a husband and they cannot survive outside their husband, then we can give them a skill that can allow them survive, take care of themselves and their children, outside that relationship. So it's a combined effort. We are working with professionals in the United States. We're working with nurses. We're working with psychologists. We're working with organizations like Elaniel Inspired Services, where they can provide mental health counseling and coaching and support to these women, and victims of domestic violence. So we're building a system in Cameroon that can help first with counseling, but then physically help these people with skills and money.
Now, Coach Rosa, is it only about women?
No,
Or
the victims can be men, and when we
all
have
right,
those victims that can be men, yes, they would receive the support as well. But for the the shelter, the domestic violence shelter that we're building in Yaoundé, this is going to be for women expressly. Then later we're going to be integrating men. It's not. It's just that men are fewer. There are fewer male victims in Cameroon than women. We've seen a lot of women cases. That's why we are taking action for the women to help. As we go, as the shelter gets introduced, and we're going to be carrying out what do you call it, an induction. We're going to share the information with you so that you can share with this community, so that people can know that it exists and they can also take advantage of it when they're experiencing this in their own lives as well.
yeah, I think we'll gladly share this, and I'll get as much information as I can about this so we can properly communicate the most we can. Well, thanks so much, Coach Rosa. Coach B, now, are there some lines you want to throw more about preventive, like prevention measures that could be taken towards domestic violence? And I think you can give a word for we so call them survivors, not victims, right? How do we call them? Are they survivors or they're victims?
Survivors, yes.
All right.
Yeah,
Preventive
we don't
measures.
want them to feel like they are victims.
Yeah. Preventive measures for domestic violence, and equally a word to survivors.
I think I'll take it back to
Okay.
self-awareness. We
Okay.
all, as individuals, we all take part in these things. There's always that person who perpetrated the act. There's the person who initiated the act. So if we can understand ourselves, if we can reconnect with ourselves and know who we are, then we'll probably be able to look 10, 15 feet ahead before we make any decision. So
Yeah.
the reason why this guy was reacting to this, I'm sorry, give me a moment.
All right. Okay. That's very okay. And I think I have some questions like Isaiah Igora came to say this is my stake. It doesn't matter if the money was enough. Okay. Because we please you can write on. We'll get to the comments afterwards.
Yes. So reconnecting to ourselves, understanding, being very much self-aware, knowing our triggers, knowing the kinds of the way we make decisions, and seeking the self-help that we need, first of all, because we find out that what is happening is traumatized individuals get into traumatic relationships and start building traumatized kids, and then the cycle just continues. And if
Yeah.
we were to be that self-aware enough to understand that we are dealing with anger issues and seek anger management. First of all, treat that part of us before getting into a relationship with someone else, knowing that that person has an independent life of his or her own and might be coming in with their own issues. And so we don't want a combination of two issues in one spot. This will be two individuals that cannot support each other. So I want to take it back to self, first of all. And there's
Yeah.
a component of empowerment, which Coach Russell already mentioned. When you talk about a survivor and a perpetrator, the two of them need to be empowered after the act.
Yeah.
Because if you go back and you start asking the question, why did you take the 30,000? The lady will give an answer. Why were the neighbors giving you money to feed your family? She will give you series of whys, reasons why this was happening, until when you get to the root cause of the problem. And the root cause could probably be that she's not empowered. And so in this case, if we understand that the reason why she's taking her husband's money is because she doesn't have her own money, then we would go ahead and empower her or would support her to be empowered. That's why empowerment is very important when we come out of cases like domestic violence. The guy also, again, needs to get help. Again, ending up in jail is probably not going to solve the problem, because in jail he's going to pick up other behaviors added to what he's already dealing with. And if he doesn't seek or get the help that he needs, in cases where he's struggling with a certain underlying issue, maybe a traumatic event in his past, if he doesn't get that help, even after 5 years in jail, he'll come out and he'll still do the same thing. And back to Coach Russell's point, women need to talk, or intimate partner violence survivors need to talk about it. We need to normalize having conversations about it. We need to stop normalizing the fact that putting your hands on someone is a sign of love. Again, we've established that it's a cultural thing in some communities, but people need to shift from that mentality, because people
Yeah.
have died in the process of that. When you hit someone somewhere, you don't know what, you could create maybe some internal bleeding somewhere and the person ends up dying. How do you even explain that? So it's not even just men laying their hands on women. It's about us keeping our hands to ourselves, not putting our hands on anyone. And society already knows, or biologically, genetically, men are stronger. And so that's why women always come up as the victims. Because if someone were to come into a situation and sees you, a man, putting your hands on a woman, what does that even, what it tells a lot about you, the man, because you know you're the stronger one, and you're using your strength on someone who is supposed to be weaker than you. So I
How
think
about the talking? The talking, Coach B, the talking, the nagging. How about that? Are we not going to talk about that?
so. The reason why they punish domestic violence is because of they want to hold individuals accountable or responsible for their actions. You don't have control over the way this woman needs to use their mouth. I think Coach Russell talked about freedom of speech. People can talk anyhow. You have control over the way you react to their behavior. And that's why you're being punished. You're not being punished because this person insulted you. Nobody's going to punish someone for insulting someone else or bad mouthing someone. You're going to be punished for punching someone who was bad mouthing you. So, what was your behavior? How did you react to that incident? Did you stay there to the point where you got even more triggered, or did you walk away? And that's why you will be punished because you are responsible for your actions. And your action is why you're being punished. So that's why I keep taking it back to self. You need to know yourself. You need to understand what you can take. You need to understand your deal breakers. You need to understand your triggers and all of that. If you do, then you definitely pick your fights wisely. You would stay around places that are conducive for your temperament. You're not going to stay too long in a conversation that is triggering you. As a mature individual, you will walk away. When I was growing up, my father told me, if you are walking down the street and you see five, six people gathered, walk the opposite direction. And that you will never see me walking down the street and you see people gathered, and I walk towards where they're. I walk the opposite direction. Those are some, because you don't know what is happening there, and it could just be a nest for you to be harmed. And Coach Russell said something about who was taking the video and all of that. We've also seen situations where someone goes into a fight and ends up being attacked. There might be things like that. However, what are we doing with these phones when we take the back seat and we decide to to take a video of something like that happening? If you want to even capture the event, I will go with the strategy where he said, put the phone somewhere and try to save that situation. And you can save the situation by just pulling one person away. You cannot go in there because again, this guy is very angry. You don't know what he can do. You can pull the weaker party away so that this person maybe is not hurt by the other person. So there are so many ways that we can do this. And in those safe houses, as he mentioned, I want to let people who have established perpetrators out there that I think that one thing we'll start doing now is teach women kung fu so that when you start these fights, they can fight also. That's my
Well,
last word.
this is beautiful, Coach B. I was trying to get this comment, but I think I don't know if your time's permit. They say I think there's a law with some sort of talking amongst. All right, we'll verify about that law. And to me, when you were saying that we are punished for what we do, it's
Yeah.
quite heartbreaking because we are not actually looking at the triggers. But what I actually think is from a family perspective, if you're making a life with somebody, you should consider some certain things such that you don't provoke this person, you don't annoy this person to act in a certain kind of way. Because take for instance in this situation that we're talking about, if the lady in question finally sues the guy or the guy gets to jail, the lady is going to be a woman of an she's going to be a former wife. Maybe he loved the guy, and that's just one aspect about the guy that could be remedied. You see, and there's going to be their children are going to be the children to a prisoner. So it has a long devastating effect that if we use a little bit of wisdom and tolerance, we can solve and start telling even the women don't trigger the man. Because in as much as the law backs you when you trigger him to react wrongly, there are many other things that you yourself stand to suffer. Most of the time, we tell the woman, leave, do this one. Not even not even taking into consideration that that woman might be in love with that man, and that could just be a little aspect of him that
No,
is
but I
that she,
think there's some sort of separation that needs to happen. Nobody is sitting here and saying divorce your husband because they put hands on you. Save yourself is what we're saying. You need to save yourself. It's back to you. You cannot expect someone else to save you. Save yourself from that situation. And it's as easy as separating from the situation. Move
or
away.
don't you think we should address the triggers? Don't you think so? Or
Of
we just let
course, we are addressing the triggers by knowing ourselves. If you know yourself, leave your triggers. Move away from your triggers because when the only thing you have control over is yourself. It's the way you react to anything. You don't have control over how your spouse behaves, over how your child behaves, and all of that. You
all
just
right.
have a certain degree of control. Let me not say 100%. So, but you have full control over the way you react to everything. So you're the one to work on yourself. If you know your triggers, move away from your triggers. If this woman, the definition of this woman is everything about your triggers, move away.
All right. Okay. Now, Coach B, before we sign out, I wanted you to just tell us. We have been talking about Elaniel Inspired Services, Coach B. So, please tell us a little bit more about this Elaniel Inspired Services, so we get a good understanding before we pack our bags out of the studio.
First of all, I want to say Elania Inspired Services is born from my own struggle with mental illness and
Yeah.
my own experiences in life that built a certain level of resilience in me. And through those experiences, I was able to view people in a different way. The way people react to things, the way they react to grief, the way they react to suffering, the way they react to pain, and and some level of matured in some level of emotional intelligence that gave me the opportunity to help myself to a certain degree. I can't say I'm 100% there, but I was able to find my outlets. I know what works for me, and I feel like if everyone else could identify their outlets in the midst of adversity, in the midst of pain, in the midst of sorrow, they will still be able to live their potential. And so Elanio Inspired Services is first of all a platform that advocates for mental health awareness. And it's also a platform where people can just feel safe to to be vulnerable and not feel judged. It's where you can have someone just listen to you without judging you, without bias. It's an opportunity where you can vent, you can just talk about the challenges that you're going through in life. And those challenges could be grief, it could just be long suffering, it could just be violence, like what we're talking about today. And you just don't understand yourself, you don't know who you are, but you want someone to be able to prompt you to understand you, because we have the answers trapped inside of us, but you need someone to maybe just ignite them, just help you reveal them. And so Elanio Inspired Services is actually here to help you discover you. And if there's an underlying issue, maybe mental illness, anything else that has been preventing you, that has been blinding you from knowing who you are, from knowing your purpose, we're here to unveil that, just to open it up so you can live your true potential. Because one big thing for us is if you have 30 years to live, you want to you want to create an impact in those 30 years. And if something is preventing you from creating that impact, be it a traumatic event that happened to you, we're there to support you, not to completely forget that trauma, but to use that trauma as an enabler to step on that trauma and still live your purpose.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
So that's why Elanio Inspired Services is here.
This this is very beautiful. I mean, this is really beautiful. I must say today was a great session, and I think I am satisfied only for the fact that we are not addressing the nagging part of the women. But all the same, let's be responsible for our actions. So even if you're nagging, be responsible for your nagging. And if it's going to cause problem, be on the side of peace. I think we should preach peace. We should preach love. We should preach love. We should preach peace to have a sane environment. In the prevalence of love and peace, there are a lot of other things that will not even surface. So before you start breaking them out, consider love, consider peace. Before you start punching, consider love and consider peace. We have a very smart question. How do we access this? This is a very sharp one. And even I think that goes for Log Echo and equally for Elania. How do we get I think we'll do a write-up. I'll do any individual write-ups to channel you. Please just stay glued to the page. I'm really grateful to Coach B and Coach Rose.
So but there's
I,
something you said about women, which I feel like so many men do say that a lot about a woman's nagging behavior.
yeah,
Again, if you are a
I'm
woman and you're
talking about
struggling with that, if you're a woman and you're struggling with that, I think reach out to us, because one thing we need to understand is, what is that woman trying to communicate? She's probably
Mhm.
just using the wrong route. But if we were to sit this woman down and ask this woman, what is the result? What's the outcome you're looking for in this nagging? Are you sure that through nagging you're going to get the outcome that you're looking for? In most cases, you don't get the outcome you're looking for through nagging. So why not change the strategy? So it helps them to change their way of communicating, right, from nagging to communicating properly, because you don't want to speak the language that the person you're talking to doesn't understand. And if you're nagging and the person doesn't understand the language of nagging, then you're not going to get the outcome you're looking for.
Now, this is why Coach B is a very intelligent woman. Thank you so much for this. The men, I believe, men parliament, I hope you guys are now satisfied. We cannot just leave this nagging like this to sleep by. All right. Thank you all so much, guys, for being with us up to this moment. Thank you so much, Coach Russell. Thank you so much, Coach B. Your presence was very magnificent. And I must say, it was a very insightful session. We're going to post halves, and actually, it's going to start a page for those who came in late so you can catch up every part of the conversation. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful night and have a wonderful day, depending on where you are.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.